It's that time again. Alec is here. We are here with Drop a Line, and we have Brittany Leonard, author extraordinaire, on tonight, and a few of her very esteemed contributors watching as well. Do drop by. This is Drop a Line. And we are here with Brittany. Brittany, how are you this evening?
I'm good. How are you?
I am fantastic. I'm very happy to be doing this show tonight, and I really appreciate you joining us. I have to say, I'm a big fan of all of the promo content you have shared about your work. I think that the work you're doing is very fascinating, so I'm very excited to talk to you about it. But first, I would like to also thank your followers for being here. Thank you for watching the show, and those of you joining us on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch, thank you as well. Brittany, I know I already said how are you, but how are you feeling about being on the show?
I'm pretty good. Yeah, I'm a teacher, so I'm pretty used to chatting with people. I'm not very shy about that. But yeah, I'm excited to connect with you and share a little bit more about my book and hear more about yourself as well.
Thank you so very much. I appreciate that. So, Brittany, you are an author.
Freshly an author as of Tuesday.
Congratulations. As of Tuesday, you are a published author. And this is a book you wrote together with your father, I believe?
Yeah. So he wrote the story. Really, it was the story he told me when I was a kid about why we have shadows. I asked him, like, what's that on the ground? Like, why is it around? And his answer was just beautiful. So I guess a couple of years ago, he was telling some friends of his, and they just thought it was too beautiful not to share with the world. So they decided to encourage him to write a book. And I helped with that process, and I ended up doing the illustrations and helped with the writing and the editing too.
Amazing. I love that story so much. That's a very sweet and inspiring story all at the same time. And I have to tell you, I am really curious about how he answered you, because it sounds like, because I'm a somewhat of a fantasy writer, and I love things like shadows. And ever since you told me that, you shared it with me prior to the show, I'm like, oh my goodness, what did he say? This sounds amazing.
Yeah, so basically the premise is that shadows are made up of our parents. So they're made up of love. And even in the story, they talk about, like, oh, what if you don't have like a mom and dad? What if you live with your aunt, say? Well, because they're made up of love, it doesn't matter who you live with, right? Like, it's part of your family. It's there so that you never feel alone. So, your first day of school, when you're nervous, lined up with other kids, you see your shadow there and you think, oh, actually my parents are a part of them's here with me. And so it follows her throughout her life in different circumstances. That idea brought her or me comfort.
I have to tell you, that really is beautiful. That is so beautiful. And I could definitely understand people surrounding you telling you, you have to write this.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
No, please. My pleasure. Well, that is an absolutely beautiful idea. And I can't wait to see the book as well. It's definitely a book I would like to buy. See, just from that, you already have me interested in buying the book. So I'm curious about, since this idea and this production came into being, how has it been for the two of you?
Ooh, that's a great question. Well, it was probably about 1.5 years ago that we decided to do this, or they asked me to help them with this. And so that was pre-COVID, right? And they live in Ontario, which is on the other side of Canada, and I live in British Columbia. So it's a 6-hour flight. So we don't get to see each other very often. And especially right now, like, there's no seeing each other, right, for the foreseeable future. So it's been really great to have something to chat about. We like regularly we'll have calls where we'll talk about the book. And especially in the last year when life isn't very exciting, you're just at home all the time, just hanging out, doing the same thing every day.
Yeah.
It's been great to just like connect and be excited to call each other and chat about it and share what's going on. And it's been actually pretty cool too, seeing like my parents' friends and how much they've supported them through this and celebrating with them and things like that.
That really is amazing. And it really resonates with me that the two of you have spoken over the phone. My fiance and I, who are co-authoring the book together, as we're not yet living together, we do a lot of our nightly communication over the phone, and we have a lot of book talks. We just say book talk. So
that's awesome.
And it really is just, I have found it to be such a blessing to have a writing partner. I was somebody who, I always had contributors, I always had workshoppers and editors, but in terms of, the bulk of the process and certainly the final stages of the process, I was accustomed to kind of tackling that on my own, and just kind of opening up and having someone I trust and love and respect to just pitch ideas back and forth with, either on the phone or sitting down in the living room. Like, do you want to talk a little bit more about how the collaborative process, how it felt for you and how you think it felt for Mel?
Sure. Yeah. Well, to start off, like with the illustration, well, first off, he had the story kind of written how he remembered telling it, but it was only probably about 200 words, right? So which is too short even for a picture book. So I tried to bulk it up a little bit and just reword it a bit. And then I sent it to our editor, and she was a children's librarian for years. So she's also very, she knows her stuff in terms of children's books. So she gave us some feedback too, and my parents just loved that process too. It's a children's book, so it's short. She gave me 7 full pages of feedback, which they were just blown away that she took that much time to like give that descriptive feedback. I mean, that's her job, that's part of it. But they just like felt really good about that, and just the way she gave the feedback to what she thought was great, and suggestions for moving forward too. So after that, we thought of some more ideas to kind of stretch it out a little bit more. And originally I had done illustrations very, very simply, just in black and white. And I tried to draw them off of like real childhood photos, because I thought that would be really cool, but there just wasn't any consistency from one page to the next. So I ended up having to kind of scrap that and start fresh. And then even like there's memories of us in this book, right?
I'm so sorry to interrupt. Could you tilt your computer camera a little bit? Because you're a little bit half off. There we go. Perfect. Can you hold that up again for me?
No problem.
There we go.
Yeah. So like this is kind of a view from our cottage. For our dock, we always fish together, or we did when I lived in Ontario. So there's some of this fishing rod on this side. And then the islands, and we have a really nice view of the sunset. So there's a few pictures in here that have a sunset in it. And there's a number of other illustrations in here too that are memories with him.
That is a gorgeous cover.
Thank
really
you so much.
I have to say, I absolutely love the artistry. When you sent it to me to use in promotions, I was excited to put it up. I was like,
that's great to hear.
Oh, I love it. Whenever one of the guests sends me something, so just a beautiful graphic to put up, like I'm happy I'm able to promote them, but I'm also in kind of a greedy way, like, oh, this is going to look good on the profile. It's gonna look great. Oh, this all looks so good. I love all you guys. Oh, thank you so much. So.
Oh, that's so good to hear.
Exactly how I was looking at that.
And that was a process too, because like I had just kind of done the basic cover from Amazon Kindle, and when I printed it, like the very first draft, it came back, and I like felt like it looked like a first book, right? Like it didn't look professional. So a friend of mine who I met on Instagram, she designs book covers. So she and I just did a call on Instagram one day, and she talked me through just readjusting everything and aligning things, and, oh, here's a better font to use, and why don't you arrange the title like this, and things like that. So it looks really good, and I have to credit her for her help.
Absolutely. And we'd be happy to give her profile a shout out tonight too. Drop a Line is all about bringing you on and connecting you and connecting the audience, and just like, giving everybody some traction. So yeah, absolutely. I would be happy to, if you send me her profile, I would be happy to promote it as well.
Sure. Yeah. And I can tag her in this after.
Perfect. So you have had some success already with the online social media crew. That for me has been such a blessing here on Instagram, just such a blessing. I am continually amazed by the artistic community, specifically on Instagram, that has just become such a fantastic part of my early career. Can you tell me a little bit about the process of breaking into social media and the community?
Oh, I totally agree. Yeah, I'm not a social media fan. I don't really use it. Facebook, I don't really understand like the transfer over since when I was in high school. It's just like so foreign to me. But Instagram, yeah, I joined a year ago with the idea of starting to promote my books. And yeah, what you said, I 100% agree with. It's such a supportive community. I've met like friends, people I've never met before on the other side of the world who I talk to regularly, like daily, weekly, check in with each other if we don't see each other online for a while and things like that. And when it comes to publishing this book, I couldn't have done it without Instagram. Like countless authors, editors, social media consultants, yeah, everyone's just, it's kind of a hub, and you're right, artists too, and things like that. So yeah, I wouldn't have found my editor. So many questions and barriers I ran into, I would instantly turn to Instagram to find answers, either messaging someone specific or just popping a question in my stories. Hey, here's my issue. Does anybody have a solution? And I see other people doing that too. We're just here to help each other and support each other. Same with promoting my book, right? Like I see other people launching books. I help promote their book, and in return, they're doing the same for me.
Absolutely. And that's what One True Promotion is all about. For those of you watching, I represent One True Promotion. Drop a Line is sponsored by One True Promotion. We are an entertainment and broadcasting brand for the indie author community. You can find us on Instagram, YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook. If you are watching this episode on One True Promotions, YouTube and Twitch, please hit that subscribe button. Please do it. We need you. We love you. Please hit the button. Okay, enough of that. So Brittany, I love hearing about the process by which this book was created, and I'm so happy for you, having published this only last Tuesday. And I do want to ask about publishing day. But first, I understand you do more writing.
Yes. Yeah, I'm working on a graphic novel series as well.
Amazing. So if you could, take me back to the beginning. Like, when did you first wake up and realize I can do this? And how was that process for you, or that journey rather?
I think I only realized I could do it once I held the first copy of this one.
Awesome. Awesome.
But I mean, prior to that, it started in 2017. I dislocated my knee in kids yoga training. And I tore my ACL, so I needed surgery. And so I was like kind of worried about how I would keep myself busy during recovery, because I'm always on the go and have things to keep me busy. But at the time, I didn't really have any hobbies, like, because I'd just gotten out of university and I was just had been a student for so long. So anyway, so my partner suggested that I learn to draw or like write a book or something like that. So I was like, okay. And I just decided to do both.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's the best advice. Nobody ever gives me that advice. I figured it out, but I didn't get that advice.
And to be honest, I didn't expect to continue with it. Like, for probably the first year, like thinking of the story, which was the graphic novel. It was the first story that I started. Yeah, probably for the first year, I expected that at some point I would give up, like that I would lose interest, sort of thing. Not really give up, but yeah, more so get bored of it, or realize that it was a bigger project than I expected, and not want to necessarily follow through for years and years. But yeah, and then that night after he suggested that, the idea itself started with world building. I was watching Inception, and yeah, like it's just an incredible movie, and the world building in it that's obviously like there's so many scenes that have to do with world building itself, right?
Oh yes.
Yeah, so
I'll never forget.
Yeah, so I just wanted to kind of build a space that I wanted my story to take place in. And so the idea came about to do Element. So it's a planet where there's 4 different dimensions: air, fire, water, and earth. And each dimension is vastly different from the next. Each has a different climate, different landscape.
Sure.
Like that. Yeah. And then gradually, just piece by piece, I started thinking of like, okay, like a problem and solution, right? Like the plot, and characters, and kind of what I wanted my themes to be about. And I kind of just like let it build itself over a few years. I didn't put much pressure on myself to like get it done by a certain point, or to like spend a number of hours each day or anything like that. And just kind of let it build itself.
That's amazing. And I think that's terrific advice, because a lot of people I know who are either not published or even published they do put a lot of pressure on themselves. It's something that, and I put pressure on myself. Pressure is something that we really feel, and many guests on Drop a Line, I feel, have confided in it. So I just love that you're talking about how you just enjoyed it naturally. You just let it happen. You're not really, you didn't really get kind of tangled up in things. It's just purely passion for you.
Yeah, exactly.
That is amazing. I love hearing that. And I'm a big fan of world building too. I love that you're a world builder. Are there any other movies or books besides Inception that inspire you to do some world building?
Yeah, that was probably the main one. But I mean, I really enjoy reading fantasy in general. So that's what I look for in a book too, right? That's what draws me in, or what makes a book stick with me after I've finished it.
Very cool. Very, very cool. Any favorite books?
Yes, I'll do a shout out here too. Author Gillian Webster. Her second book in her series is coming out in June. So I've read the first one, and it was my favorite read of last year. It's called The Weight of 1,000 Oceans.
Ooh,
and like, yeah. And she just like, I didn't know what to expect. I think she was one of the first indie authors I read. So I was like, not sure, like, okay, is this just going to be like a poorly written thing, or is it going to like blow me away? It totally blew me away. Like in the first couple pages, her writing is so good. Like, for me, I hate when you're reading a book and it's just like, and then they had like brown hair and they were like 6 feet tall. And it's just like, okay, paint me a picture. Don't just like tell it to me, right? Like, why are you telling me this? And she describes things in a way that you don't even realize she's doing it. And the vocabulary she uses too, I really like, because it's like, it makes you think a little bit. Like, I feel like compared to normal books I read, her vocabulary is more advanced than I typically read. And then the concept is pretty cool too. It's like dystopian. It's like a few hundred years in the future, what our Earth is like. So it's like water levels have risen, right? Entire cities have been wiped out. And there's very few people left on Earth. And so it's about a girl that's grown up in that time period and is like trying to figure out who she is.
Nice. That sounds amazing. That sounds really good. Yeah, so I guess what I want to ask next is, so You mentioned that in your story, you're basing your worlds on the elements, right? I think it's just always a good idea because the elements are something we encounter on a daily basis. There's usually a very easy foundation to build upon where you have, your basic four, but then when you really get into elemental things, there's always room for it to expand and grow and for it to be close to nature. And I apologize if you mentioned this earlier, but what is it that drew you specifically to elements?
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head, the nature piece, right? For me, the environment and sustainability is a huge issue, and it like frustrates me so much that our world just like keeps perpetuating the same issues. So for me, it's a way to kind of like address that for myself. So I read a book written by David Suzuki. It's called The Sacred Balance. And it's actually broken into, I read this after I decided on the four elements, but it ended up kind of being useful because it kind of worked into research for my book. And it's broken into air, water, fire, and earth. And talks about how they all work together, how, it's all interconnected. And how kind of like a history since the beginning of Earth too, and now, and why things are the way they are. So that's been kind of a good piece too, and that's exactly what drew me to the element piece, was that I wanted it to be a comment on the environment, and mental health as well. Because for me, one of the things that depresses me the most is the environment, is the fact that I feel like suffocated, like there's no solution, right? So the main character in there also like has mental illness, and so I'm hoping readers can learn a little bit about that too.
Oh, there's so much to talk about there. You said something really great. You mentioned the feeling of suffocating. That's not good. But the fact that it was such a specific, vivid emotion. Great. And that brings me to my next question. How do you first begin writing your characters?
Yeah, I would say I have two main characters. One is very much like based off of me, not really, like there's totally fiction in there too. Can you hold on a second? I have to let my cat inside.
That is fine. We're going to do some promos. No problem. If you are watching, drop a line. You are free to leave a comment. If you have a question for Brittany, you are welcome to ask it. We want you to be a part of the show. We will answer any comments you write down. By the way, I represent One True Promotion. This is Drop a Line, and we're going to bring Brittany back on right after this very quick promo of my next stream, which is called Live Readings. There we are. So,
now I left in the middle of something I always say. Characters, right. Yeah, so one of the main characters is kind of somewhat based off of me, more personality-wise. And so her character, I kind of knew right away. For me, it's really easy writing her. And then the other main character is a guy. So first off, that's just challenging in itself because I think men's and women's brains work differently. So when I try to think like a man, I don't know what that is, right? But I would say I just start off like I brainstorm like, what personality does the character have? And from there I might look for, especially because I'm illustrating it too. So I might think of other characters that the person reminds me of, like off of TV or things like that. And I'll look up kind of images of them. And then I'll start thinking about like, why is it that these characters are all the same, in my opinion, right? Like, what is their personality? Like, what are the things they do or say, or like their mannerisms and things like that? What is it that makes them like a type, in my opinion? And then from there, I can start like jotting down like what types of things they would say or how they would say it, what their gestures are and things like that. And trying to figure out kind of their personality. Sometimes thinking about background information, like where did they grow up? What's their family like? Where do they live now? Why did they move? Things like that. Yeah, so kind of just piece by piece, but definitely with the secondary characters, I've had to be more intentional about like trying to think about their personality and how they would act in certain situations.
Absolutely. I have two things to say to that, actually. One is that I really want to commend you, first of all, because I've been published since 2017, but I've been writing for much, much longer than that. And only recently did I finally start doing some of the things that you are describing in your character research. You know, conversations they might have, things they might say in this situation versus that situation. I tell you, I published 2 books, and it is only recently that I've finally begun to do this. So I just love that you have such a natural gift where all these parts of the process, from what you're describing, you seem to just kind of come into them naturally, which I think is so cool.
Thank you. That's cool to hear. I mean, I hope it all turns out well. Like I definitely still like struggle like and read through to look at different characters' voices too, to make sure that they sound different from each other.
Mm-hmm.
And then sometimes I'll help my partner as well, or my partner will help me as well by like reading one character while I read another one. Sorry, my cats.
That is awesome.
Come to say hi.
Exactly. Hello. This is a good place for a kitty. How you doing?
Yeah, she wants to be a part of it.
That's fine. She's welcome. She's more than welcome. Hello. And the other thing I wanted to mention was that when I was doing my undergrad in literature, I was in a Shakespeare class, and our final project was secondary characters.
Okay.
We had to write a paper about all of the secondary characters in the plays we had read.
Oh.
And your reaction, it was around the room, this like eerie feeling of discomfort, like a hurricane was brewing. Yeah. We all knew what main characters we'd pick.
Mm-hmm.
But he was like, oh, no. You're going to do the secondary characters, and you're going to write me the best paper you've written all semester. We were just like, but he was very intentional with that. We really had to think about something you described, about what is it that makes a good secondary character?
Yeah, exactly. Why are they there? They need a purpose, right? If they're going to be there.
Right. How are they helping, right?
Yeah.
Are they helping or hurting?
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite secondary character you've written?
Yes. Vex. He's kind of like Puck from A Midnight Summer's Dream. Just like a sprightly little like guy like prancing around and speaking in rhyme, and you're like, are you a good guy or a bad guy? Like, what's your deal here?
Oh, I love those characters.
Yeah. Very
cool. Do you enjoy writing ambiguous characters?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Awesome. Me too. I gotta tell you. There's just something about that process that really kind of grabs your attention, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So this is a great conversation, and I'm so glad you decided to join us. And I really, really love hearing about your process. But I do like to ask the guests at some point in the show, do you have any questions or comments for myself or for the audience, or anything that you would like touched upon that we haven't gotten to yet?
Oh. There's one part of my book that I think I'd like to show, if that's okay.
That is definitely okay. Who wants to show?
It's like the bonus content. So because it's about shadows, I thought, well, of course, any kid that reads this is going to think about, oh, I think I might have just left the Instagram one by accident. Hello? Oh, it's reconnecting.
Yep.
There we go. Okay. So I thought I can't publish a children's book about shadows and then expect them to not want to play with shadows, right? So I have a guide on how to make your own shadows, and then with your hands, how to hold your hand, what animal it is, and what the shadow will look like.
I'm like freaking out over this book. This is such a cool book. Like, it is so interactive. It allows this book is immersing you in an element.
Ah, there you go. Yeah.
I'm serious. Like literally, like, you know, you and your dad meld together, have created this mystical, just heartwarming meaning behind a shadow, something that a lot of us take for granted. And after reading the book, it's like where you have a new perspective on shadows. You get like a guide to be able to kind of put yourself in the story. That is so brilliant. I love it. Kudos.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm hoping people will enjoy it.
Oh, I'm certain that they will. I'm certain that they will. I wanted to ask you about your graphic novel, your graphic novel series that you're working on. So you have mentioned that you are an author as well as an artist.
Mm-hmm.
So is this project going to be all in-house?
Yes. Yes, a daunting task to take on.
Daunting, but I think that see now, just now, there's a slight bit of pressure with that thought, right? Just a tiny little bit. That's when it starts, right? Once it really starts becoming real, right? But I'll tell you what, you have such a great instinct for just building and allowing yourself to enjoy it. And I would tell you to just hold on to that as you go through. And I'm totally giving unsolicited advice right now. I apologize, but I have found that as I take on some of my larger projects, that day after day after day, those feelings keep coming. They keep coming. But if you can just bring yourself back to the point where you're doing what you love doing, and you came here in the first place because this is what you love to do. If you can keep bringing yourself back to that, you can get through any day. I'd say that from a little bit of a personal experience.
Thank you so much. Yeah, and I mean, like, the world we live in today with technology, like, again, I'm self-teaching myself everything, right? So I'm so grateful that we have technology, and I can learn anything I need to at my fingertips. And like we were saying earlier, social media, if I can't find the answers, I can ask people who might know, right?
Absolutely. And you can ask us too. That's what Andrew and I are here for. Andrew is my tech guy. He's behind the scenes with us since the show started. But that's what we're here for. We founded One True Promotion because literally, if anybody has a question for us, or if they want us to put something up, or they want us to direct traffic to your profile, you can message us and we'll do it at our very next availability. That's what we're here for. You know, so please, I hope that you will become a part of the community and rely on us because we've got your back.
Awesome. So he's an author as well then? So the two of you wanted to start this so that you could kind of help kind of promote other people and give back to the community?
Absolutely. Yep. It was an interesting story. I was working for a publisher previously, and we decided to part ways. I decided that I wanted to be an indie published author. And at the time, Andrew, who's been my best friend since freshman year in high school, which was a little while ago now. Sorry, I just had to faint for a moment. And but yes, he was being very supportive. He was coming with me to all my events. He was lugging my books. He was talking me up. He was talking up the series. He was helping me at every turn, and he had expressed a desire to begin production on his own first publication. So I looked at him. I said to him, "Why don't we go into business together?"
Awesome.
And we pretty much took off from there. And that's who we are. That's what One True Promotion is. Just a couple of guys who are expanding our community more and more every day. But thank you so much. I wanted to ask you though. You spoke earlier about how. What attracts you to writing about the elements, but I would really love to kind of move over to the artist side of things. Like, how do you get into the artistry of this upcoming series? You know what I mean? Especially with the kinds of things that you're working on. Like, can you tell us a bit about that process and what it means to you?
Sure, yeah. Well, I would say it kind of started with the landscape and the colors of everything. So that was part of the reason why I decided to do the graphic novel route, was because I wanted people to see literally the images that I'm seeing in my head of this world. So the water, or I'll start with air. So the air world is, or the air section dimension, has a city in it, and it's a city that grew too quick, too fast, and sorry, that's my cat. She's meowing at
That's all right. That's okay. I find it a pleasant sound.
She's staring at me like, why aren't you letting me outside? So so in this city, it's abandoned because it's just, all that's left of it is smoke and ash in the air, just a dark cloud over the city. So the air there isn't in a good state. And then so I see like the color palettes of that as like grays and blacks and things like that. And actually I do have like color in there too, but one of my beta readers pointed out that I chose kind of perhaps the wrong color. I had lavender as like the toxic color for the city. And one of the readers said, lavender is usually like a calm color. Mm-hmm. So it's interesting that you've chosen that as the toxic, like accent color for the city. So I've been thinking on that and thinking about if I want to keep it with the lavender, maybe change it to a different hue of purple, maybe. And then the water world is all winter. So it's covered in water, but it's covered in snow, right? And the interesting thing about this planet is the sun and the moon don't both rotate around the planet. The sun is stuck in the fire dimension. And so the opposing side of the world is stuck in darkness, that means. And the opposing side is the water side. So the water dimension with the winter landscape and things like that is always in night, but the moon does rotate. So sometimes there's enough light for like perhaps a little bit of photosynthesis, perhaps it's a little bit easier to travel around, but really there aren't too many critters that are living there because most critters need sunlight. And then Earth dimension is still very lush. It's on the opposing side from air. So it's far enough away from the city. It's not quite been affected too much from the pollution. And then it's between fire and water. So it gets some sunlight, so it can still grow plants and animals can survive there and things like that. So that's the healthy dimension. And then fire dimension is like a volcanic landscape, barren land. Kind of, I don't know if you've seen Mad Max, but just like, kind of like desert scape, like kind of really, really cool in that perspective, and like oranges and red hues sort of thing.
You know, one of my favorite things about a graphic novel is how the artwork and the colors and the visual representations of what is in the text, especially when the text is about something like nature, can just pull you in and just make you feel like you're walking around it, you know? Mm-hmm. Is there an art style or an artist or a graphic novelist that has ever pulled you in like that?
Oh, yeah. My favorite graphic novel artist at this point is Isaac Goodhart. And I don't think he's necessarily as well known, but he he illustrates for the Postal series. And I think his artwork is just, it's pretty simple. It's not like, there aren't lots of like flourishes and things like that. But I started like kind of copying some of his drawings when I first started illustrating. And I found that, and I would copy other art styles too. And I found that kind of comparing to him, that was kind of what my like instinct is, or like my natural perhaps talent or tendency sort of thing. But you've seen my artwork on my profile. It's kind of like cartoony. It's not super realistic looking, but it's getting better every day. And I think it's definitely grown into its own style.
And that's the key, right? Is that you're honing your own craft, you're writing your own story, you are developing your own visual style.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That is so cool. I'm like already like a big fan of your series. It's not even out yet.
Oh, awesome. Good. Like to hear that.
You were saying?
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say like from a writing perspective, writing a graphic novel is very interesting because you're not writing the narration behind it, right? Like the narration is the pictures, really. So when you're writing it, which you have to write it in some sort of form in order to get feedback from beta readers and editors, right? So you write it in script form, but like that's not something I ever did in school, right? Like I'm pretty good at writing typical stories with regular narration, but script writing is a total different ball game. And then with that as well, the whole experience of a graphic novel, like for instance, sometimes when you're on the right hand side of the page, you flip it and it changes to a new scene, right? So when you're writing, you have to think literally what side of the page is this on, so that I know, can I change scenes? Can I change like topic of conversation? What's happening on the following page? And also setting up those like big panel spreads and breaking down like how much dialogue can I actually fit in a page when I go to actually do the illustrations, which I think will probably be a learning curve for me when it comes to the text and things like that.
Well, I would be surprised if it wasn't a learning curve, because it's very involved stuff. You know what I mean? So I think I'll have about 5, maybe 6 learning curves compared to your one, if I ever attempt to do so. So I wouldn't worry much about that. But yeah, that is just, that's very insightful. And one thing I really love about the conversation tonight is that I feel like anybody watching is not only getting to know you, but they're getting to know your process and your experience in great detail. And I think that they really might be able to take away just some of the hallmarks of what it would be like if they attempted to create something like that.
I hope so, yeah. And I mean, if there's anyone listening that's kind of intrigued by that, again, my message is like, we live in a world where knowledge is at our fingertips. Like if you want to learn how to do something, go for it. There's nothing stopping you.
Absolutely. Wonderful message. I support that message 100%. Brittany, it is great talking to you. We're starting to approach the time where the show usually wraps up. But I have to say it has been a very engaging and artistic conversation, and I hope you have enjoyed your time here. I hope that you would consider coming back. Guests come back on Drop a Line all the time. Some come back more than others. We have to tell them, listen, let somebody else have a turn. But we love having people back. Yeah, I mean, I just think that the stories that you're describing are very interesting, and that they definitely resonate. So again, I'm very, very happy that you've decided to pick up the pen and the brush, as it were. And I remember what I forgot to ask. How was your release day?
Oh, it was good. I was working. I'm a teacher online, so I was working. But other than that, no, it was good. Tons of support from Instagram. Like I was saying, like lots of people sharing my book around. My parents, they had an awesome release date. It was my dad's birthday, the day of the release.
Oh, that is so awesome. Happy
birthday. Yeah. So he had an awesome day. Like, I mean, like I was saying, we're in COVID times here. So my parents haven't they're kind of stuck at home too. Ontario's in lockdown right now, but it's been great for just, extra phone calls from people, or somebody dropped off a basket of handmade cookies with, I should send this to you, with like illustrations of the picture of the book. So like the cover of the book, they made a cookie out of it.
That is
as like a congratulations to my dad for the release. So that was kind of cool. Like, yeah, people just went above and beyond to make it a special day. So it's really nice.
That is so wonderful. That is so wonderful. I'm so happy to hear that. And I am very happy to be promoting the book. We'll definitely promote the book for you. And I'm very excited to see how it does. Again, I think it is a wonderful, wonderful idea. For those who might have signed on a little late, do you want to tell them what the book is about?
Yeah, for sure. So it's a book co-written with my dad. Well, my dad says thanks on Instagram there.
You're welcome.
It's co-written with my dad. It's about why we have shadows. And so the premise is that we have shadows because they're made up of our parents. They're made of love, and they're there so that we never feel alone. So whatever circumstances we're in, we can look to our shadow and know it's okay. I've got this.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Would you, we also offer guests a chance to read out of their books for the last couple minutes. Would you be interested in doing so?
Oh, sure. I would love to. Okay. Like the whole thing, or just like a couple favorite pages, or?
Favorite pages, yeah.
Okay.
We don't want to spoil everything for them, right?
Yeah, but maybe one day I can come on to that. You have a different show where there's live readings?
Live readings, yes. We are having our next live readings on April 24th, I believe. And submissions just opened if you would like to send something.
Yeah, I saw that on your Instagram. Okay, yeah. All right. So this is a favorite page of some people who have seen the book. This illustration in particular.
Gorgeous.
You can show it to Instagram too. And then I chose this page because it kind of has the premise on it. So, why do we have shadows? I asked. Shadows are there so that you never feel alone. They're made up of your parents and will never leave your side. And then this is another favorite page. It's on the following page. My shadow leaves when you turn out my light at night, I told him. So that night, he showed me where it was hiding. And then he shows me outside we go outside into the moonlight. And one thing that I just find so magical at night is how we still have shadows when there's a full moon, how there's still shadows on the ground. Like, that's so cool to me. So that had to make it into the book. But another favorite picture of mine is this one here. It's a real memory of my dad and I doing shadow puppets. And this was a dinosaur that he had made.
Amazing. Amazing work, Mel, I gotta say. He's asking you to read the back cover.
Oh, sure. Okay. The Life of a Shadow. This beautiful father-daughter story of why we have shadows is fit for all types of family and will bring a feeling of comfort to children of all ages. And then it reminds you that there's bonus content included.
Love the bonus content. Love it.
At the back. Oh, my cat made it into it too, of course.
There she is.
Yeah.
Brittany, that about wraps
up. For having me.
Oh, it was a pleasure having you. It was a pleasure hearing about, your process and your experiences and the work you do with your father. And Mel, thank you for watching as well. Congratulations on the book release. I can't wait to get my copy. And that is about it for this evening. Do you have any closing remarks?
Yeah, if anyone wants to get their own copy, you can find it on Amazon, all different countries and whatnot. It's The Life of a Shadow by Brittany Leonard. And if you want just a direct link to it, you can find that either on my Instagram or authorbrittanyleonard.com.
There you have it, authorbrittanyleonard.com. People, be sure to stop by. Thank you again for being here, Brittany. And thank you all for being here on Drop a Line this evening. And that is our show. Brittany, you have a wonderful evening.
You too. Thank you.
See you later, everybody.
you.